Time edition. I don't know, whatever you want to say.
We're live. We are live. We are After Dark. This is our first absolute After Dark episode where we review some source code live. So I'm Ken Johnson at CK Tricky on Twitter, and this is Seth Law at Seth Law on Twitter.
Seth, say hi.
Say hi.
I can't say hi until you get through with your intro, Ken. I don't know what's going on.
I don't have a proper intro because
we don't have proper intros for nights, do we? But that's okay. So because we're jumping into it. As you can see, we already have we have some stuff up on the screen. It's interesting though, Ken, that the preview shows, like I opened README, but can you actually see any of the content that's on the screen right there?
No, I can't. Hold on. Go back up to the README. Wow. That's really hard to read.
Manage trust.
We're going to be fumbling around quite a bit tonight as we figure out how this all works. We are using code spaces in a shared session. So Seth can access these files. He can, so we're looking at it on my computer, but he can access them through a remote session. So he can, it's like we're on the same machine basically. And I don't know. I mean, I guess we just you want to talk a little bit about, we found this app probably about,
so what, like 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, about 5 minutes ago. I don't know what there is to say there. We basically, so it's a PHP.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, I was just going to say it's a PHP app. I was going to drop the link in there if anybody wants to review the source code as well. It's Laravel. Ken and I, it's PHP. We have Ken has a lot of love for PHP, so we decided that was going to be it, right? That we were going to pull something up and run with it. But Laravel is Laravel is a PHP framework for building web apps. I have seen some Laravel applications in the past, not a ton though. Haven't done a lot of source code review with them. And so tonight, what we're looking at is the community site for Laravel. If you go to laravel.io, you will actually be able to review the running code base that's associated with Laravel or with this repository. Realistically, we don't have a lot else to say about it up to this point. So what we're going to do is start the process, see what we can figure out. We'll talk through why we do it, what the thoughts are behind it, and we'll go for, as long as we feel like we want to go for it, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, so basically what Seth said, we decided we're going to review some code live. We were opening it up for suggestions, but didn't get any. So we decided to just, pick up something that we're both not super familiar with. I've never looked at Laravel. I barely ever look at PHP. It's been a long time since I've looked at PHP. We thought, hey, it's a web framework. We literally just went to this GitHub repo and we're looking for awesome open source apps, web apps. So we stumbled across this and we figured we would do a live review of that. And like you said, Seth, just get as far as we could. So we get kind of tired and bored of it. So first, I think I'll download. Yeah.
Download our, that's where we start every single time.
But if we fumble around a little bit, it's just because we're on code. Like I said, we're on code spaces. I don't, I don't spend a ton of time, always in code spaces doing shared sessions. So we'll figure it out as we go along.
Yeah.
All right,
so what we're going to use, Aaron actually pinged me on this. For those of you that are new to this or watching this randomly on YouTube later, I guess, we're going to use our secure code review framework to review this instance. What Ken's pulling down right now is actually the checklist and the template that we use when we're doing secure code reviews. So it has some of the checklists or checklist items that we'll look at, but at very least, it's this Circle K framework of us, or this framework that we use that actually directs where we put our attention, right? The initial assessment of the information gathering, platform information, authorization decorators, right? And that's what you'll see in this. Notes for it. Yeah, the behavior of the application, like what the business purpose is. This is the stuff that we do on every assessment, every code review that we look at, is we start with behavior, right? And Ken's looking at putting in the commit number to start because that's fairly important. So we know what it is exactly we're looking at. You find it. You do a git log in there.
Yep.
Good. Yeah. And it looks like this is a fairly active project, right? That was part of the reason that we chose it. We looked at a couple of the other Laravel apps that were out there, and they were 4 or 5 years old. Feels almost like cheating if it's that old, because we know that it won't be up to date. There's going to be components with known vulnerabilities. They're probably using some out of date coding patterns, as opposed to this one is new, right? That latest commit for Origin main there was pushed, last Thursday, so it's less than a week old. Cool.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Good call out. That banner, it's blocking the code.
Oh,
thank you, Derek.
No, we want you to look at the banner, Derek, not at the actual code that we're digging into. So, all right. So, Ken, what do we know about Laravel.io so far?
Nothing. So let's dig in a little bit. Since we can get access to that repo, I am just because it'll look better on this browser. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. Typically we'd look at the README, but just because, which we are doing here, obviously, but just not doing it in code spaces, so it's kind of prettier. Anyways, all right. So requirements. We know it's PHP 8.
PHP 8. I'm going to start filling out the other one. PHP
yeah,
8.
Sorry. That's what I thought you were doing. I thought you might be taking notes. Yeah, cool.
Yep,
awesome.
I'm taking notes.
So Seth's taking notes. So yeah, I'll just give out some of the components then. So Composer, NPM, and Valet.
Ooh, NPM. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I guess that is.
And that is the NPM we expect, right? Let's see. Yep. NPM.js. Okay, cool. So it says you're free to adjust the site's Laravel.io location to any directory you want on your machine. In doing so, be sure to run the Valet link command inside the desired directory. What does Valet do?
Laravel Valet. Is that a Laravel orchestrator?
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So the Composer package manager, Valet, and finally picking any test domain.
If I remember right, Composer is like a PHP orchestrator as well. So.
Oh, yeah, Valet will. Interesting. So every time you start your laptop or the machine boots.
So the comparison there would be Valet is similar to like RVM, I guess. Looks like it.
Seems like it. Yeah, that's what it seems like. Huh. That is super interesting. With a little bit more to it, but yeah. Seems. Oh, so yeah, it's used in. Okay, Composer there. So Composer is the package manager. Valet is the library. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's like
clearly
the
we don't know
environment.
anything about this stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so NPM, Composer, Valet. What else do we have here?
All right, so let's go back. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Keep at it. That's
Cool.
yeah.
Sweet. All right. Composer install. Set up a local database called Laravel. Run composer setup. To link the site to a testing. So that's what all it is. It's just a testing. It's like, I forget the name of it, what we used to use with like Ruby apps, but I think it was like the founder of 37 Signals had built something to do this. We used to use that all the time, and it's similar. It allows you to just like have a local address. All right, GitHub Authentication to our register a new Oauth application on GitHub. Yeah. Okay. So this is going to use an Oauth app with GitHub. I'm pretty familiar with that, so that's good. Thankfully, use Laravel. I had a test for the homepage and for the callback URL. Yeah. I mean, if you're not familiar with Oauth protocols, you're usually going to have some standard like pathways to do OAuth things, and this is a popular part of the spec is doing like auth / whatever the strategy is for the OAuth. For OAuth. You create fill in the app and the secret. All right. So you're definitely going to need a GitHub app to get, and what is Algolia search? So here's another interesting one there, Seth.
Algolia?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. We're going to have to do some research on that.
It's optional. But something to think about. Probably lower on our
it's probably lower
risk profile. Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if that's something similar to Elasticsearch, right? For just storing of whatever community threads, whatever's in there. I don't know. We'll have to see.
But what is it? Search and discovery hosted APIs. Okay. Building sharing apps with delivering all content in all seconds. Cool. So it's a search provider type deal. So I don't know, like that's probably lower on our risk. Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. PHP Artisan, right? That's actually for resetting the database. That's like running the actual application, right?
What is Artisan?
I think that's like serving up an instance of it, right? If you want to actually use. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's like Rails console, but Laravel console. It seems like.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. That's going to be really helpful for like real runtime debugging.
Mm-hmm. Or running those tests, right? That'd be interesting to actually do. If we can get it, if we can work it out. Cool. Security vulnerabilities. Woohoo! Right? An email immediately. We're going to wait 3 days before we push anything.
If we find anything important, we'll definitely
email them. So my questions right now are database backend, whether or not that actually matters. If we have to have if it's Maria, MySQL, because I didn't see a call out there. So that might be abstracted a little bit. You'd be able to choose.
I was thinking of looking at let's look at the notes so far so people know what you've written down.
Yeah.
And so we don't lose track of that.
Yeah. So I've got external community users. I'm not sure what the different types of roles are yet either, right? I don't know what concerns the clients, right? But I did break down the framework language, those things we called out. I know there's some sort of database there besides the Algolia search stuff. And
I'm gonna scroll it down.
Yeah. Yep, that's where I'm currently at.
Sweet. So you have a bunch of the tech stack in there. That's awesome. I'm guessing we'll find out the database from the config file. So I was thinking I would look at Laravel's site and look at their how their database configs get set up for the framework.
Yeah, I'll look
Usually,
at that.
that tells you which
Derek,
adapter you're going to end up. I guess
well,
also
Derek
we should be
found
looking
a
at the
schema.
package.
Yeah. If you
Oh,
look
nice.
under, he actually found it. So probably under database schema. Yep. MySQL schema.dump. So I was pretty sure it's MySQL at that point.
Yeah, that seems right.
And I'm sure we could look in.
This is great because this is actually part of what's that, Matt? Or what's called you? Max, Seth.
Whatever, Colin. I mean, Ken.
Yeah, I know, right? Now, I've been talking to Max for like 3 hours, so yeah.
Yeah, MS SQL. Well, it is abstracted, right? So if you look in composer.lock, and this is what I suspected, there's a composer.lock file at the root directory there, which is all
do you want to look at the compose? Do you want this one or do you want the full lock file?
Oh, I pulled up the lock file because it has like all the locked versions. So there's a lot in there, right? These are all the packages it's pulling in, but I just did a search in there for SQL, and you'll notice it's pulling in DBAL, right? The PHP database abstraction layer, which allows for the use of any of these, right? Like SQL, instances.
I did not know that.
Which could be pretty interesting. And then I also see Redis, a Redis client that's in there.
Oh, that could be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, MySQL, but seems to be using DBAL. So any
has AWS SDK with it. Interesting.
Redis.
Oh, that's dev stuff there. Okay. That's
Redis, at least in composer.lock. But yeah, you can get lost pretty easily down this.
Yeah.
At some point, we'd probably want to run a PHP or like dependency check against this.
Yeah, and so in case whoever's watching this you may or may not be familiar with lock files. So basically, I'm looking at the composer.json file because this is sort of the definition where they're like, hey, we want to use these libraries. And the thing is, these libraries are going to use other libraries. And they're going to be locked at a very specific version. And that's what you essentially see here in this file is a much more expanded upon like all of the sub required libraries and, locked at specific versions. And but it can be, so this can be great for like the total list of things that are actually running in the app. But this is just visually sometimes if you're just looking at like the high level of what devs mean to include and to use, this can also be pretty useful. So this is better for like dependency vulnerabilities, and this is better for just like getting to maybe see what was intentional, on the part of developers.
Yeah, it's good though, right? Auto load, like there's some, the database seeders that are in there, right? That could be interesting. Database factories, but definitely like the DBAL that is used for the database, Redis. Seen anything else we should note right now? I mean, there's a lot of data in there, right?
Yeah, I don't know what most of this stuff is, so I can guess at some of it, like Guzzle HTTP, and the dball one. I couldn't have guessed that, but you told me what that was, and but there's Twitter and Telegram and basically built-in Laravel libraries. What I'm not super familiar with, I don't know. Well, okay, that has to do with cores. So we should probably look at least at Fruitcake Laravel cores. Sorry, that makes me laugh. I'm drinking whiskey. Whatever. Don't judge me.
Fruitcake Laravel cores.
File system AWS S3. I think it's important to note that they're using AWS S3.
Okay. Yep, that is. Yeah, so I'm starting to put things under a checklist of things to review. I've got Laravel cores, seeing AWS S3 libraries. Check out how those are used.
They also have a Uuid generator library, it looks like, but it's made by somebody named Ramsey. So, who knows? I'll look up in a different window that is not going to interrupt your work there. To look that up, Ramsey Uuid. It looks like let's see here. It looks like it's got. So it's got 11,500 stars, 436 forks, 1,100 commits. Last update in October. They have a security MD. That's cool. Let me check that out. They have a vulnerability disclosure policy. So this isn't just upon at least first glance, this doesn't seem like it's a, random, or like some, I said random, some pretty much some random library that came, that someone's trying to include.
Yeah, and see, I'm already starting to run down a couple other things just based on what we've seen so far. We know it's Laravel. I saw the routes directory, so I'm almost starting to push into, okay, what are the interesting route mappings? We haven't necessarily, but I don't want to get too far ahead. Right? Just based on what you know so far, are there any risks that you want to call out before we jump into it?
I guess risks would be anything to do with pretty much like S3. And I guess that's a question, is like, how is the S3 configuration occurring? Like, how's that work? Let's see. Especially, I'd be interested if there's like any. Well, no. Sorry. All right. So we have Redis. So for Redis, I would look for any set get keys, and then let's make sure none of the keys are actually user supplied. All right. What else did we have? I have to go back to your notes here. Okay. OAuth with GitHub. Yeah, I guess we should look at how the client's set up, just to see if there are any weaknesses at all.
Honestly, right? Like OAuth, like keys.
Yeah.
I haven't necessarily dug into that. We need to see how Laravel is handling keys, right?
Well, and that, yeah.
That's more checklisty, right? What, from a risk perspective, like, what would be, this all points at Laravel.io, right? So what is that's part of what I want to do now, is actually take a look at that and see.
I think Sorry, I was just trying to think about this. Like, I think the state parameter. Correct me if I'm wrong. The state parameter needs to be verified as well. For sorry, regarding OAuth, I was just trying to think about OAuth.
Okay. Well, it seems like a lot of this is there's a forum underneath the hood. So laravel.io/forum that has some 19,000 threads. It seems like this is the way that people are interacting, right? They're asking for questions. There's a response. So similar to Stack Overflow or some of the other community sites, like developer community sites that are out there. Looks like you can answer. Yeah, you can create links. There's content. Things are marked as solutions. Right. Sign in to participate. There's registration. So user registration, user authentication.
Oh, are you looking at the live site?
Yeah, I'm looking at the live site. Right?
Okay.
Looks like if I register, so register requires a GitHub account. So it's all done through GitHub. So there's not. But I mean, I'd like to look at that because I've seen that before where there is one page that is GitHub or they require OAuth, and sometimes you can back end that, right?
Yeah.
Bypass authentication, that's always a risk, right? If we can hit up those registration links directly that are coming out of Laravel, paste bin. It's just some sort of paste. Interesting.
Maybe that's the UUID requirement right there.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know where that goes. I don't know how that's related.
Neither do I. I just know that it's like I don't know if that paste functionality is within the actual if that was like a subdomain. I mean, it was a subdomain, but I'm not sure if that means like. Yeah, of course.
I mean, obviously there's search, PHP. I'm doing a search for PHP. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. It looks mostly like a forum thread. Log in. Cool.
That looks like, and you can access users directly. So there's moderators. Cool. Looks like there's a moderator flag. So I just started clicking from that main page.
Do you want to share your screen?
Oh, yeah, I can share this, what I'm looking at right now. Then we can flip back and forth. This is, okay. So I took over. So I was looking at just the forum site itself and started clicking on some of the things to our community. So there's users. Looks like that's their username, which is, I mean, it's fine, right? Replies, solutions. I wonder if there's more data that comes in here, but at the very least, so this one is just a general user, whereas when I hit up TV Beak, he's a moderator. So we know that there's different levels of access. So there's moderators, users. That was one thing. That was one of the questions on my list. Users, moderators. And I wonder if there's any other flags then besides users and moderators. Is there an admin flag? Are there other users? Oh, there we go. Yep, there is an admin. Woohoo. Okay. So we have those three different access levels that we're going to be concerned about. API packages. Let's see. Let's look at one of these articles. You can share articles. And you can create accounts. Looks like you can link to other places. There's some content upload here. I mean, and we've got to be concerned about content, right? What's actually allowed, because they are allowing links. Makes me wonder if there are bypasses, cross-site scripting, other dangerous things that we could insert into there from an injection perspective. I don't know. Injection. On pages. Let's see. What else do we have? Having a live site. I know we didn't try to stand it up, but this will make life easier for us in general. I can't comment because I haven't registered, but that's fine. Read article, amazing companies, your logo here. See, these all link to other places. Chat does as well. The Pastebin stuff. That's what you were looking at.
I mean,
so
that's
realistically,
a different site, but who knows?
Yeah, it is. So most of the functionality is within forum or articles, right?
Yeah.
I can't log in. So this is interesting, right? Like registration is only through GitHub. And this is just it, right? Like I wondered about the login. If there is a way to register with usernames and passwords here without going through GitHub and using that whole Oauth flow.
What does the forgot password do? Just put in your email. You're going to put in my email, aren't you?
Can CK Tricky? No, I'll put in mine. I'll just do. Ooh, there's user enumeration.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's cool.
We'll have to validate that. But I don't know if username enumeration is really that important. Email enumeration might be, though.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, I'm going to throw some of these in here.
Did you go through the registration flow?
No, I haven't yet. I have not.
I will. That. Why not?
Okay.
I'll be brave. No, I'm going to use a test account. I mean, I don't have one of those.
Yeah. Credentials do not match our records. Okay. Email enumeration. We have the GitHub login, right? We have the normal login. Let's see what that does. Yeah, see, that pushes us directly there. But that's one thing I really want to look at that because I don't know if they've actually removed that functionality or if it's just the GET request. Like if we do a post or something like that, we may be able to bypass this completely. That's interesting. Yeah, after login, you can choose your password in the settings screen.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
So after you link, interesting. So they're not necessarily depending on Oauth outside of the initial registration process.
However, we do know they're taking email addresses, and we do know their email addresses associated with your GitHub profile because that's what it's showing me. And I think maybe you can change that. Actually, let me see if I can change that to something else, and it'll be all right. I'm going to register the name as.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw some more of that in there. Community site for Laravel.io, mostly forum and articles related to use of Laravel. Cool. All right. Well, I think we've got the tech stack, behavior is pretty good. Brainstorming some risks, email enumeration. Ken's going down the dynamic path now. Yeah.
No, it actually didn't ask me to set up a password.
Oh, it did not?
No, that's weird. Just the email and all that.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so the next thing that Yep. The next thing I want to do, because we are starting to get there, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because I want a better understanding of how everything's put together before we jump into
Right.
like stepping through the checklist items, right? At this point, we got a pretty good idea of what the app actually does, some of the interactions, so some of the authentication and authorization stuff is flowing through GitHub, at least through the registration flow. But now I'm stepping more into information gathering phase, like in our Circle K framework, right, Ken? We're going to break down the routes. We're going to break down the authorization decorators, like how authorization is handled, and then we'll continue to fill out like other important files and URLs as we get into it.
Do you want to I do want to just real quickly, everybody thinks so far has seen like that we have written in like, what does it do? Who does it do it for? What kind of information will it hold? All of that. The tech stack information you had put in there earlier. Also, when we were talking about we were saying like, hey, what could be a risk? What could be a risk? This was being documented the whole time. I don't know if people saw that part of it, but I just want to make sure people catch that it is in the notes. When we were talking about things that we should review, that was also being documented. So those weren't just like arbitrary notes or arbitrary comments we were making to each other. Those are So anyways.
I'm trying to we're documenting and talking out loud as we do it, right? To give you an idea of what that process looks like. So he's pulling out those risks. Those are associated with that checklist of things to review. Oh, probably should have pulled those down, but either way, it works. I want to start into the routes. So I'm down under the mapping routes section now, because I did find that routes directory. That is just under laravel.io, and it has those 5 files in it. At this point, I don't know what each of those are doing. I'm suspecting that the API and web PHP ones are accessible externally, right, to anyone that wants to access them. So that's where it becomes most interesting to me. Like the console is probably something that is interacted with through Artisan or through the console, itself. Maybe not though. That's where we're at. So at this point, I'm going to start digging straight into web.php because I want to understand how Laravel actually does this routing, and that's seems the easiest spot to me to start with, right?
By the way, there is a route list if you do PHP Artisan route list. So I was thinking about trying to get Artisan installed while you're doing that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sweet.
But it won't affect like what you're doing, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm seeing, a number of different routes. As I pop in there, and maybe here, I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to share for a minute while you're doing that too. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Just as I start to document. Yeah. Hold on. I'm going to add this to the stream. I'll make it a little bit bigger here. Okay.
Which files?
So this is web.php. And so and this is exactly what I want to see at this point, right? And I want to understand what the authorization looks like and what the routes are. But it looks like it's pretty well defined. So I've got like a home, like your normal / right, for laravel.io that goes to home controller with the name, and it shows the name of home, right? So at that point, I know that, and we'll start to document some of this as well in my review notes. Web.php has /, and these are all accessible before any sort of authorization decorators or this authentication wrapper that I've got here, right? Route namespace auth looks like it's doing some sort of authorization before it allows access to these other. Oh, maybe not. No. Never mind. That is the authentication namespace, right? So password reset and not the authorization namespace. Cool. Okay. So we've got rules, terms, privacy, get bin paste. There's that paste stuff. that looks fairly interesting, right? I don't know, like if we can access somebody else's paste, how that's actually being shared, but those are interesting. That bin paste, name rules. So the view is rules, terms, privacy. Those are all the route.get. Like I'm not sure what route.view does though. So I mean, I need to understand that before we move too much further on. So Laravel route. Yeah, okay, routing in Laravel. Let's look and see. View routes. If you're, okay. Simple shortcuts so enough to define a full route or controller. Accepts a URA.
Oh, that's awesome, actually. It shortcuts the normal having to have a placeholder controller in action. That is super cool.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing
So
more
it's-
annoying than when you're just like, yeah, it's just an action that just it's defined as empty and does nothing, but it's only so you can get to the view.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty sweet, right? Because so that means that there's going to be views that exist for rules, terms, privacy, but there's no controller associated with it, right? That's what
Can
I'm
you go
taking
back
away.
to it?
Mm-hmm.
Did it say URI? So I'm having a hard time reading that, but that says because I have it on the smaller. The view method accepts a URI as its first argument and a view name as its second argument. In addition to providing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure I understood that. It's talking about the path, but yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Well, when it says, like if there's a difference between URL and URI, right? So that's why I get like nervous. I'm like, wait, hold on, what's that?
I mean, it doesn't look like it's specified, but it might be, right?
Yeah, I think they just mean the HTTP path.
Yeah. So articles, some article ID, social.png, like showing article images. Okay. Social image controller. It's probably serving up Twitter, whatever else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or generating an image based on the article that can be shown. Okay. And then we have this auth namespace, the authentication namespace. Log in. We got to get post. Okay, this is what I was saying. This seems suspect to me, right? When we started to talk about the registration process, the registration form, if you noticed when we did a GET request on Laravel.io, it actually showed, hey, you got to go to GitHub first. But there's obviously this register.post. And I don't know if this is how it worked for you when you actually ran through it, but right. I'm really interested to see this register controller class and what's actually in there.
Yeah, I'm curious, like with Laravel, another thing we're going to need to know after. So like, as we're doing these route mappings as Seth's typing and as we're doing these route mappings, one thing we typically do next or in tandem with is we look for authorization decorators that are associated with each of these paths. But since neither of us are familiar with the Laravel framework, we've got to look up, how do you define authorization? How do you place decorators or where do you place decorators and how do you configure them? Because obviously you're not seeing any authorization decorators called here. Like I don't see any anyways in this file.
Not right now.
It's got to be defined somewhere else.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to look deeper, right? But I'm starting to document. So if I show you on another screen here, maybe I can.
Dude, from all this, from like the travel and just time zone changes and stuff, like I swear to God, I'm losing my voice.
Yeah, not surprising. So as I step through web.php, this is exactly what I'm doing. As I'm starting to. Okay, there's, I did that first one. I need to do the other ones. I want to make sure that I'm actually, because there's rules, terms, privacy, and bin paste that are interesting. But I'm just going to start breaking those down, right? And all of these have like a slash in front of them, right? It's not super important as long as I understand that that's where it's located. Rules, terms, And this is why Ken is trying to enumerate out, like do a, whatever that artisan list is, route list, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Bin paste ID or whatever it was. And that was a GET request, if I remember right. And I do try to call out when I'm building out my list of routes, what's a GET, what's a post, because what's accepting content versus what's actually just looking it up. And as we get into the controls, we'll go deeper down that path. Bin paste articles, social PNG. Right. Looks like Ken has unmet dependencies. He's still working there.
Fun times.
But given this like special view, I'm just gonna mark these as such so I understand what's going on when I want to do a quick glance at what the routes are associated with web.php. So there's email verify, email resend. These are all, I mean, because these are security functions, I'm going to spend more time mapping these out than I will maybe some of the articles and some of the other things that are there, right? I just need to make sure I understand exactly what's going on. If I remember right, I'll bring this up over on. So I've got another window that's up that's actually looking at web.php outside of the notes, but I want to be able to flip back and forth easily because that's a GET. This is a GET. Resend is a post. Yeah, see, it feels like Auth GitHub, the provider callback. Yeah, I really want to dig into that, but I'm trying to hold back.
So there are two ways that Laravel provides. So there's two primary ways of authorizing actions inside of Laravel: gates and policies. So I have to now read up on what are gates and what are policies. This is code review, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Super fun. Tons of mundane stuff.
Okay, so that's a route redirect. Okay. Okay. Notifications, that's a view. And if you follow along in web.php, you'll see this. I'm literally just going down the list of what's available there. And there's quite a bit, right? Like, there's banning. Oh, there is like route prefix admin, name admin.
Hey, so you're going to find a file, by the way, for authorization. When you're, you don't have to do it now, just when you're ready, it's going to be under app providers. Actually, why don't I app providers auth service provider.
Okay.
Yeah. So the boot method, there should be a boot method in here where you're defining, gates.
Does register this.register policies, but that's built into the auth service provider.
Well, there's
doesn't
a
look
policy,
like there's.
right?
Oh, okay. So there's a reply policy. So the policies are built under app policies.
Well, there's a register policy. I don't know if there's.
That's what I'm saying is there's like a user policy. So it looks like there's policies around what you can do. So yeah, okay. So for the user policy, there's certain constants, right? And it's looking to see whether or not you're an admin, if you want to do a ban or a delete, right? Banning a user, deleting a user. Okay, so these are special authorization functions, right? So each of those different policies Ken's found there. So they're not necessarily authorization decorators, but in this case, they're authorization policies that we're going to want to take a look at. So we've got, where did they go here? Yep, article policy. And each of these is going to have to be reviewed. Notification policy, because they're important to determining what reply policy.
What kind of whiskey are you drinking, by the way?
I'm not. I'm drinking a Pilsner.
A Pilsner? I've got, yep. We said we were going to do whiskey.
Oh, well, I can break that out too.
I was expecting some High West.
Yeah, that's what I've got back there. So maybe I'm going to do a shot of High West.
That's what I went with.
Fine. You've got, oh wait, I can't even see.
Coffee grain whiskey.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Man, this light is bright.
Okay, so we've got those different policies. Again, I don't want to jump too far down that path because all of those are going to need to be checked when we get to our authorization checklist. Mm-hmm. But this is going to be helpful wherever those policies are in place, and that's what Ken was looking at, right? That other auth service providers, right? But I don't know where those are protected policies, but I don't know how those are actually applied, right?
Wait. Okay. Yeah. So this is. Yeah. So they're applied. If you go inside of, it looks like inside of the controller, like a controller, just any controller, and you go down to.
So let's look, right? Like the articles controller. Yeah, because
and there should be like an allows. Oh, sorry.
No, you're great. Like, so there's a user's controller. Looks like it's admin, but.
Hey, what's up? So, sorry, give me a sec. I'm going to talk to my son.
Yep, you're fine. I'm going to look into app HTTP controllers. Articles. Let's pull up that articles controller.
And so somewhere in there should be like either an allows or denies. And for anyone watching, we're just trying to understand how the authorization decorators are structured and like how they're enforced. And it's easy, like if you know how they're actually configured and if there's a pattern you can follow, then you can look for negative cases, basically where they're not applied. This is especially helpful like for CSRF type things, which people don't think of CSRF authorization decorators as like, or they don't think of CSRF as an authorization decorator, but it totally is.
Yeah. Well, okay. So there you go. Here's this, edit article function in the articles controller. And you see it's making a call back to that article policy and with update, right? Do you have that? So if we were to pull up that article policy, we should be able to tell it should have something about like what am I trying to say here? Yeah, update. Yep. If they're administrator or, if you authored it as the user, you have update ability, or you're a moderator or an admin. It's fairly easy, right? Disapprove, approve, decline. Cool. Easy enough, right? Like that's how the flow is working.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's concerning that you have to do it on each and every. Anyways, it looked like that. What file are you in? Articles controller?
I'm in articles controller. So if we looked, and that's under articles, it might be different if we're like under admin, like admin users controller. Let's see how that is actually done. Yeah, see, when it constructs the class, it's calling verify admins. That is probably making a call to that policy. That's some sort of middleware because I don't see. Oh no, I do see those authorizations. That's how they've implemented it. They're not doing it on a controller basis. They're doing it on a function basis.
Yeah, I mean, that seems really prone to mistakes. That's something we're going to have to, let me document that as a risk under the review notes.
Yeah, that makes me want to actually fire up SemGrep, Ken, and take a look, because that, those public functions, it'd be really easy to rip through those quick to see what's not actually using authorize. They've probably gone over this with a fine tooth comb, but you never know. They could be missing something somewhere. Right.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the patterns that, again, this is up for people watching. One of the patterns I really like is when you can inherit from, like, say, another controller, or you can simply just, apply and I know Seth feels the same way. Like, you could just apply a decorator at a controller level, or just have a controller that has, like a base controller that has all of those, primary things you're going to need, like CSRF protection, needing a logged in user. You can put that in one place, and then everything else can inherit from that. And then you can know that you have a baseline level of security. Whereas if you have to define authorization on a per function basis, it's pretty prone to human error, I guess is what we're trying to say.
Yeah. Well, and this is interesting because they are using this Illuminate middleware, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, and it has these like facades that you can implement, like I'm looking at right here. So verify admin, so that users controller, or the articles controller for the admin, when it's constructed, the first thing it does is it runs through this authenticate class for verify admins, which in turn, it calls this handle, and it checks to see whether or not the user that's logged in has the user policy of admin, and otherwise it gives you the forbidden, right? So I'm logged in as a regular user, and I try to access as that controller. So this is your coarse-grained access controls, what we're looking at here from my understanding. So if you're going to one of those admin endpoints, you have to be an admin, but then it also has fine-grained access within that, which checks each of those article policies, right, to see whether or not you can approve.
That's
or
awesome.
Disapprove. But that's
awesome.
It almost feels a little bit like overkill, because if I look at this article policy, where did that go?
By the way, I'm looking at CSRF and how it's implemented in parallel with what you're doing. I'm looking at CSRF, how it's authorization is done in Laravel.
Yeah. So in this case, right, this update, there's no fine grained if you're already an admin. There's not. It's just all allowed, which makes me wonder, like, it's overkill, right, in this situation. I guess that's approve. Let's see. Yeah. Because you can't even get to that function without being administrator. So why are we redoing the check? Why are we doing that authorization check twice? I mean, I guess it's layered security, and it doesn't really cost that much to do an additional check on either of those. And it might be because they had copy pasted code from the articles controller here and the articles controller. This is where it seems more important, like the articles the regular users articles controller, because it like this edit or update, it's doing a check here. You could be administrator, I guess. Okay, that might be why. No, I mean the articles controller that's an admin does feel like overkill to me, right? It's not a security issue. It's probably more a performance issue, but it's probably not getting a lot of use, so it's fine.
Interesting. Huh. I caught some of that. I was reading the CSRF bits over here, trying to understand what.
Cache, remember, there's some good stuff in here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back to, so we've got all those. We also have, so we had the policies, but we also have this middleware, right? That has a number of different functions that can be called, like the Authenticate middleware.
That's interesting. So you can use the middleware directive to create authorization related middleware.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
And that was at the top of the controller file, right?
Yes. So for the admin articles controller, that's where I found that, right? This like construction, it's doing authenticate class. Oh, yep. Which is the Illuminate middleware, which basically is saying, do some sort of check with verify admins. If it's allowed, then allow the construction to move on. Otherwise, it throws a 403, right?
Hey,
where are you at?
Actually, while you're in middleware,
Mm-hmm.
does there hold on, I need to like zoom out here so I can see you. Is there a verify CSRF token middleware? Let me go down there too. It's under HTTP. It's supposed to be under HTTP middleware.
I don't actually see anything
yeah, there is.
I see the Authenticate,
so,
but where's that being? So which one are you looking at? Right, that's my.
Oh, the verify. Sorry, verify CSRF token.
Well, yeah, okay. So I see verify CSRF token. My question though is.
So this is the number one way, or like this is the first way I came upon to actually omit routes from being protected from CSRF.
Is to throw them in this protected except.
Yeah. Yeah.
But where is this actually? And where is verify CSRF tech? Where is that actually called? Well, okay. So
apparently
we're getting ahead of ourselves. Hold on, let me see.
Oh no! I just wanted to understand how the authorization, this CSRF authorization decorator worked.
Yeah.
So sorry, that's all I was trying to find out is if we had one of those files so that we I knew if they were following the right pattern. And the framework is it automatically should include those. It should just include this verify CSRF token file by default, and use it. Yeah, it's supposed to be built into it, the framework. I'm looking for any other ways though to turn it off. And again, for those watching, because it's an authorization decorator, we have to find out how does it get applied, and then what are the ways to omit CSRF protection, which is what we just figured out. And it doesn't look like, Seth, there's any other way to
turn it off.
Yeah, to turn it off for an endpoint. I'll keep looking, but I don't see anything here.
Well, okay. And see, this is my question, right? Is I want to see that applied. So let me see. I'm going to do a find in folder, verify. So is this being pulled in somewhere else? Where is that actually?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just pulled
kernel.
in by the framework.
Interesting. So it's automatically applied on everything. Okay, middleware groups.
Yeah. According to this documentation.
Cool.
And I have not.
Well, that's what I wanted to see. Yeah. To bypass it.
Yeah. Other than that.
So it looks like all of this middleware. Okay. Ooh. There is no CSRF middleware on API endpoints, though. Which is probably okay.
Yeah, I mean, hold on. Where'd you see that at?
So I'm looking at kernel.php, right? So that's the main namespace when it gets fired up. That it looks like that's the global.
It's not echoing what you're doing in my screen. That's weird.
Oh, it's not? Oh, it's
only that's why I was like.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it doesn't take control of your session. It only takes control of the changes that I make are reflected. So if we're working on the same file, we would both see it. But where I'm hopping around different files, that's problematic, right? That's what I'm showing right now anyway.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'm watching.
So that's what I'm looking at right now is this kernel.php, because it's got the different middleware groups that are applied. So,
Nice.
So that's where CSRF token is applied. So it's across the board for anything that's coming out of web.
Why do you think the authenticate session was commented out?
I don't know. Oh, that's a default, right? From Illuminate. It's probably the start session, or maybe it's just being handled via start session now. I'd have to look into the Illuminate session middleware to see. I don't know. Encrypt cookies looks interesting too, right? Yeah. So much.
And just as a reminder to folks, the reason we're having to do this extra work is because this is a framework we've never seen before. So, we have to do all of this work, this upfront work that you would normally see us just skip right through and we just breeze through. And maybe for the next episode, we'll choose something like we're really familiar with, so it goes quicker. But this is like, we wanted to show like this is the reality. If you pick up a framework you're like completely unfamiliar with, you got to do all this legwork.
Trusted proxies, and trusted hosts and trust proxies. Feels like abusable too. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to enumerating routes while you're digging into some of the other stuff.
Let's see. Store password hash in session.
Yeah, verify admins. Okay, so the interesting one here, actually, I'm going to pull this out of kernel because that's an important file. Where'd that go? Kernel. These are actually applied to web. Those are applied to API. I'm just going to copy and note that. Auth basic classes. Let's go route middleware if it's actually being used.
So Illuminate is apparently the namespace that Laravel chose. It's not like something else. Like this is actually part of Laravel. So yeah.
Okay.
I had to Google that for anyone who's curious. I can figure out why is it called that. So then that explains why the session documentation points to that.
Okay, so that's those. Add queue cookies to response. Start session. Cool. All right, so I'm going to keep going on my web routes because we haven't finished that yet. And a lot of this will go back, right? I mean, we could start jumping down some rabbit holes, though, if you wanted to, if we wanted to, instead of enumerating out every single thing, because I don't know how late we actually want to go, or you want to go, Ken?
Yeah, probably just like the more interesting, possibly like the forgot password function I for sure want to look at. I'm definitely curious about that. That'd be really fun. Are there any like ping or debug or any endpoints like that? By the way, did we figure out if they have any method interchange issues in their routing?
Not necessarily. Everything. What I'm looking at right here, you've got get, put, delete. They're all defined. The only one that's not is the view stuff. So that might be an interesting case to run down.
Yeah, but I think if you just post to it, it would just be like, oh, unless there's, I'd have to look how it's defined. But anyways, I was just curious if there was like a, like a match or something like that.
I'm not seeing any of that. It seems to all be, from what I can tell, it's all get, put, post, delete, or the view. There's no like match or anything like that from what I can see here. Here's the admin the admin prefixes for both of those controllers. Those look to be fairly tight though from a authorization perspective. Yeah, the articles controllers, articles create, authored, articles create, get, post, show, edit, update, delete, replyable. I don't know, some of these ID parameters, I'm not sure if they are numbers or GUID values. That's the other thing. I mean, we saw the UUID library, but I don't know. We could look at the site itself to actually check it out. Right? If I'm looking at the different articles that are associated with it. The forum articles actually have names based on what the title is. So that's not really enumerable, but is your username? Well, the username is, or the user is based on the username. Thread is interesting though. I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah, that's also like one thing that's bothering me is, they like commented out that session middleware. So like, how are they building sessions? How are they doing that?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
there's something to think about at some point.
Yeah, there's two different calls that are there, right? So there's that authenticate session class, but there's also a start session one. So I wonder if like Laravel at some point switched from authenticate session to start session, or if that handles it.
Well, it was in the 7x documentation for Laravel, the commented out one. Let me see what this is. Oh, and then start sessions in the Laravel 8x documentation.
Okay.
So was authenticate session, but maybe it's so there's two different session here. I don't know where to put this.
Profile settings controller. Where did those go? Those are always interesting. Settings password. I mean, things like mass assignment, right? We could look at update of settings profile. Sure. So let me throw that in the review notes.
Man, start session has a lot to it.
Yeah, that's not surprising, right?
Yeah, definitely not. Get cookie expiration date. Session configured. Session is persistent.
Yeah, so that's all web. I want to look at API though too, because we haven't done any of those. I think there might be some interesting stuff there, especially because it doesn't look as well protected. And odd. API.php contains no routes.
Oh.
All right, so let me look at kernel. Where's that actually going then? API. Wow, I gotta dial back. Where's my route service provider? It is definitely binding API.php. Let me check routes bindings.php. What does that actually give me?
What?
Okay,
there's that.
Yeah, it's defining what a UUID is. It's binding email address. What is route
Find by email
bound?
address.
Yeah, what does route bind do though? Ooh, it's implicit binding or explicit.
Oh.
Oh, let me see. Yeah, let me show this. This could be interesting. Oh yes, I can make the font bigger. I just saw that comment. Sorry about that if you're listening on the or you're watching on YouTube. But these binds look interesting to me because it's binding a model directly. So this is meta programming, right, Ken? Based on the models and email address. So let me look at the.
I think. I mean.
I'm going to share my other. So I'm looking at the routing for Laravel. So the Laravel documentation. And this is very true to life. When we do these code reviews, I spend so much time in documentation trying to understand what's going on.
Yep.
So this is implicit binding, but this is, where's my explicit? I think it's below. Explicit binding. Okay, because this is that's route model.
What?
Come on, where is that? Let's see, route. Okay, so this is your defining your own model binding resolution logic. Okay, bind method will receive the value and should return instant of the class that should be injected into the route. Boot method of the route service provider. Okay, sure. Yeah, I think it's creating a bunch of different I'm pretty sure this is creating, get, post, put, delete for each of these different routes, right?
Oh, setting up default.
Tag, thread, username. So if you did like a search for /username /whatever, I believe I mean, what is your thought there, right? There's that Ramsey UUID being used, but that's only for subscriptions. I mean, we could try it out, right? Because we can do username.
How does it pertain to the model? Is the part that I guess I'm a little confused on. Like, I see they're passing in the model class. Like, is this a convenience function there, or is this for convenience? Like, what is this doing?
Yeah, I think it's just for convenience sake, right? But is it only supporting a get? Is it supporting something else? Like there's tags. Yeah, so at this point, I want to jump to, where am I at? So if I'm looking at Laravel.io, that's forum. Did you sign up as CK Tricky?
I did.
Well, apparently that didn't work. There's another
try
username.
Well,
let's see. No. Let's see. Let me call out somebody who is
Dopeski. Just go to their to the
so
left
that's under
where it says
forum tags. Why is that under forum/tags? Jeez. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what bind actually means. Sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say? Dopeski?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say click on that name. Well, what's the URL say?
So that's user. That's why I'm trying to figure out what this username is.
Put mine in and see if that yeah. But
yeah. Ooh.
Oh yeah, Hacker Elite.
Hacker Elite script alert.
Oh yeah, hacked. Write it up, boys. Write it up. I'm a dumbass. It's all right.
Yeah, so I'm still really confused at where these are actually ending up.
I have no idea what they're used for. I mean, let me look it up on my machine as well. That should maybe help.
Yeah, the route bind.
All right, so implicit.
Okay. Oh,
what is a usage and purpose of this? Is literally the stack. This is where we're at, folks. I'm on Stack Overflow. It says, what is a usage and purpose of Laravel's bindings?
Stack Overflow for the win. And this is the dirty secret, right, of secure code review as well, as we spend a lot of time looking at Stack Overflow, like the dev2 forums, right, like other places, to understand what the code base is actually doing, right?
Exactly. Why would you want that?
So it's convention model resolution and model binding. So this must mean like, okay, so the username automatically does a lookup here. So maybe in, so it's binding that. So in like web.php, right, wherever username shows up, it's automatically doing a lookup for that user. And interesting, associating it, I guess. So like, okay, so here we've got a username. It was bound, and now there's a GET request. So like in your case with CK Tricky, and so if we look at the profile controller under the show name profile, let's see what that looks like. Let's look at the profile controller really quick because we're trying to understand this. Where did that go? Okay, here's show. Yeah, so the user is getting passed in there based on that username request, right? So username is automatically being interpreted as I'm passing a username or a user into profile controller show, and then I'm getting back out this the profile name. Apparently, is that returning the profile name? Yep. Redirect to the profile if it is your own username. At least that's how I'm understanding it.
I'm sorry.
I'm
trying to read this. Yeah, I think it's just making it possible for you to reach into a class that otherwise you'd have to do more extra. You'd have to do extra legwork for.
Okay.
Pretty deep in the weeds. Sorry.
Yep.
I'm trying to read this.
Yeah. Based on the usage pattern, that's what it feels like to me. So bindings.php it's not actually creating new routes. It's actually allowing for the use of those articles as lookups without returning, doing this lookup behind the scenes in each of those different functions.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So not a super high security risk. Really not.
No. All right.
Okay. But still, okay. So I'm going to go back to api.php because there is nothing in here from what I can tell. but it exists and is being called from different places. Maybe. Wait, where's the route service provider? No, I lost that one. I closed it. So let me switch my screen. Oops, that one, kernel.php. Okay, so now I'm back to looking at the code within VS Code. Where's my controller? I've got a route service provider somewhere in here. There we go. So it requires those bindings. It's using API middleware, so maybe we need to take a look at that. Namespace route, because routes API.php, from what I can tell, is empty unless I am up at night. No, it's literally, it doesn't even have a close quote for PHP in there. So what is the API middleware? I'm going to do a search for this now. Okay, there's kernel who's got it. API, okay, that's composer, package lock, I don't care. There's API keys, whatever, review notes. That's what I'm looking at. Rate limiter for the API, that's built in. Auth.php has some stuff in there in the config. We haven't even taken a look at the config directory yet, Ken, either. That's another place that we're going to need to jump into. Mm-hmm. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Now I'm bound into the past. Yeah, I don't know. That middleware doesn't look like that goes anywhere. There's no API. Which, if that's the case, well, what happens, right? Because that should be based on the routes. Yeah, I don't know where that would actually even end up, right? Prefix API, prefix. Oh, so it should do a /API. Yeah, I get a page not found if I'm trying to go to laravel.io/API.
So, man, this is just super interesting.
Which one are you looking at?
I was looking at something else. I was looking at the forgot password function. That's all.
Okay. Why don't you share it? Let's take a look at it. So at this point, we're starting to dig into actual vulnerabilities, right? He's looking into API is empty. Yeah, you found that.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. Is it that's okay to switch over?
Yep, go for it.
This console. I don't really need that. Yeah, I was just opening up the forgot password controller and noticed there's this like sends use this sends password reset emails, and then noticed it's like it's a built-in auth strategy within Laravel, and I know that it calls redirect if authenticated. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting to figure out like how does this work. Yeah.
Well, we know it's sending some sort of token based on the web or the routes as well. Right. There's both there's a password reset token that shows the reset form. And that goes to that's a reset password controller, not the forgot password controller.
Right. So the forgot password function, I'm guessing, is just a redirect. This is interesting. Oh yeah, no, wait. You're right. That's interesting. Show link request form. All the email credentials. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's doing much without. Okay, well, maybe it's not that interesting. Okay. Do you want to look at the other? What was the
Which
other? The controller
so so reset password, is that the one?
Yes, that's the one. Sorry.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. So we're at this point we're stepping into authentication checklists items, right? If you are following along in our process or in our framework.
Here's some basic ones. Oh, no, these aren't the ones that we set up. These are actually examples, but we have a list on, let's see here. I'm going to pop this in real quick. What is our generic checks? There we go. Let's go down to the authentication one.
Dude, I'm going to try something.
What's that?
I'm pretty sure that I can get around the GitHub requirement, and I can also set up another account. Let's see, that is GitHub ID. Accepted. Like the validation for authorization or for registration it requires a GitHub ID, but it doesn't actually, it's not checking for that OAuth flow at all.
Wait, where?
Sorry, you're looking at reset password. I'm looking in the register controller. I went down another.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so which function?
Well, do you want to finish doing that, like what you're in there?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were saying, never mind. I thought you were jumping off to.
I was, but let's take a look at what you're at. I'm going to pay attention to you instead of to, my own.
Well, now I'm interested in what you're saying. Hold on, let's go back to that. That sounds interesting. I'm just going to give it over to you. Who cares?
All right, okay. So I was looking at register controller, right? And this is what I kind of suspected, is there's a validator functions to make sure that there's an incoming registration request. There's a creation, right? So this create call is being called from, if we look at web.php, right? Where's register? Yeah. Register post, register controller. That's where I'm at. Register with a name.
Ben had a comment, user was allowed to store name as a payload. I didn't see that. It seems like a P1 critical. That's pretty good. Good times.
Let's see, because I don't actually see. So app jobs, register user. But okay, so if you're already authenticated, it won't let you re-register. That's great. There's a validator to make sure that's what I'm looking at, is that validator right now. But what I'm trying to figure out is from web.php, it's calling register controller class and then the register function that has to be in here somewhere, right? Which means there's a register request, app jobs register user. Maybe it's underneath there, but there's got to be a definition there somewhere of a register function. So we're going to take a look at what's being pulled in here, because we're extending controller Foundation register users. Maybe that's where it's at. Let's see. App jobs register
Yeah, I mean,
user.
it seems like there's these built-in strategies to the framework that people keep using, or people the app keeps using.
Okay, app jobs register user. I mean, it requires a GitHub ID and a GitHub username.
Mm-hmm.
From request, that's handling.
Oh, I think I can actually stand up.
But one of the things I'm finding interesting here, and this is the attack that I'm starting to think through, is what happens if I provide someone else's GitHub ID with a new username, right?
Oh, interesting.
So can I become CK Tricky 1, and it still points at you, at your GitHub ID, and then represent myself as you within this platform, right?
Huh.
Because you'll notice it's checking to see whether the email address is unique. Okay, that's fine. I can provide whatever email address I want. It's asserting that the username is unique. So, yeah. But I also, like, if I don't have an account yet, maybe I can claim that I am someone else that hasn't registered for the platform yet, right? And have it point specifically to their GitHub. Like, it's not a high severity issue, but that's what I'm tracking down, right? User. Does the model have a registration function in it? I'm starting to think that maybe it's coming out of this register users, the foundation. So we need to do a search in there for auth. Yeah.
Oh, dang. Man,
API.
dude, deleting an account has pretty disastrous consequences. Like if you delete an account, it'll remove all of your data, all of your threads, any of your replies.
Ooh.
So
interesting.
That stuff is permanently gone. So just anyways, as a risk, I'm going to type it under our risks, but I thought that was like an interesting kind of like, that seems like that would be a very dangerous thing if you could get access to another person's account and perform that function. And I think because of how dangerous that is, I wonder if it has like a confirmation button. Anyways, I don't want to get too much down the rabbit hole there, but if it doesn't have a confirmation button, that's a meaning, or not a confirmation button. That's not what I meant at all. I'm talking about a reauth for like if it's been, if you've been signed in for a while, longer than like let's say an hour or two. It's usually a good idea to make people re-enter a password for super dangerous functions like that.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, so register is definitely coming directly from Illuminate Foundation auth. Which means it's just handling registration request for the application. Yeah. Redirect if authenticated. It's going to make this, it's going to make sure that it's validated properly, and then it's going to create, register user from request and register user. That's coming directly out of here as well. Right. All right. Oh, app jobs register user. That's where it's falling to. But I don't see in register user anything that's making a callback outside of the fact that those strings have to exist. That it's actually validating where those are coming from. So that's the question now, Ken, right? Like,
What's that? Do you see anything about the state param there? Like any
no.
validation in the callback? Sorry, I browsed away and it sounded like you were looking at the callback code. Is that where you're looking at?
No, I'm actually not, because
You're looking at
it doesn't require me to go into the callback code. That's my concern.
Oh, I see.
Is
Wait.
I think I can, yeah.
Hey, so interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I look at the GitHub callback, where's that actually at? Let's see what controller that's in. So auth GitHub, that's the callback, right?
Right.
GitHub controller.
Yeah, that'll kick off the so you log, yeah.
Yep. So handle provider callback, invalid state, find GitHub ID. Okay. So it's getting a user based on that. So Socialite's being used to actually pull that data back from auth login. User not found. Yeah, see, session GitHub data is going to the user registration page, and then it's allowing, because it's redirecting you to that route. I really think this is, yeah. There's impersonation is basically what I'm boiling this down to. So if I do get to that registration page from within like GitHub, you maybe actually be able to save that request response, modify the GitHub user that's being passed in there. It's interesting though, because it's pulling it out of the session data here, right? It's setting that in the session, the GitHub data. But then we route to the registration page, the redirect, right? And register is pulling in here, but doesn't make a call to session anywhere to pull that data back.
Interesting.
Register user. Let's see. I'm going to do a search for GitHub data. Yeah, that's the only place that it's actually being set. Oh, register blade. That's only within the views. Oh, that's hilarious, man. Yeah, this is totally like we should be able to manipulate this, right? Because if you look at the template, the blade template, we didn't mark that up either. But if it has GitHub data, yeah, then it redirects you to the register post where it pulls the GitHub data for the registration process. Yep. I'm right. This is impersonation.
Nice, fine. You want to test it out?
Yeah, I do, right? Yeah, because the value is there, right? So the form that you submitted is actually taking user input and trusting that the GitHub email, the GitHub name. All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to try this out. I don't even think I need to use Burp Suite to do it either.
Very cool. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, let me give it a shot. Okay. So I'm going to step through the registration process until I get to that. I'll go to GitHub. I'm going to authorize. Yeah, it says it's only pulling email address. Okay, so I'll authorize that. Okay, all right.
We can't see what you're doing, by the way, in case you.
Sorry, I got to that page. Yeah, I'm too excited, and yeah. Hold on.
I just want to make sure that we all get to share in the fun.
Okay. All right. So I authorized it to pull this data back, right? And it's pulled out my name, my email address, right? Like I don't want to be able to do that. So we're going to change this to that. All right, whatever, right? But I want to inspect these elements. Let's see, where's that?
Normally, to be clear, for those watching, normally we would not go into this already. Like we would still be doing more work, right? We'd be just taking notes and moving on. That's how you do a comprehensive assessment. Meaning, like we would highlight that we need to come back to it, but we just take notes on assumptions. Like we think this might be possible, and then we would move on. We wouldn't continue to actually like test it out. But for entertainment value, and because we don't have all night to do this, why not? Follow one rabbit hole and see what happens.
Okay, so the only question that I have is then, what is your GitHub ID, Ken? Do you know?
All right, hold on one sec, because I'm about to re-register. I actually deleted my account, so let me redo it.
Oh yeah, re-register.
Totally forgot that I just did that. Put my back. Feels good to stay in.
I mean, so we can change email addresses, everything else. I can change usernames. So.
Oh, hey, which page showed you? When you got to the register page, that's when it showed you.
No. Yeah. So get to the register page. Don't complete that form though, because like all I need is your GitHub user ID, and basically I'm going to try and impersonate you because you did delete your account, right?
Should I have made a thread first, or no? It doesn't matter if I delete my account. Yeah. Here, let me send it to you right now. I sent it in StreamYard.
Send it private chat.
Someone just gave me my user ID. That's awesome.
Someone just gave you it.
Wait, is that the Greg I think it is?
I don't know. 5, 4, 4, 6, 7, 7. Okay, so I'm going to say that I am CK Tricky, and I'm referencing your GitHub ID username. I mean, if there's a way to look that up, I'm pretty sure there is. I'm going to register and.
You son of a gun.
Check it out. So now, if you try to complete that, right?
Yeah, let me try it. Hold on.
If you try and do that completion, it's not going to allow you to because I already took the CK Tricky username.
Let me try it. No, I can't. The username has already been taken. Yeah, hold on. I'll share my screen.
Yeah, share your screen.
You can see it says the username has already been taken. Oh, good times. That's amazing.
So you could still sign up. So try and sign up with CK Tricky 1 though instead.
Yeah, try that. Oh no.
So it won't allow you to do that either. Interesting. Mm-hmm. It's probably because it's trying to do that tie behind the scenes. So the impersonation only happens if it doesn't exist. So you could take my ID and you could become Seth Law if you wanted to, because all you need is a valid GitHub user ID, which makes me wonder if we could just register everyone's, like we could, like I could take this and dump it into Burp Suite and just register random usernames with, the ID value of different GitHub users and, become those users. See, code review works, man.
It does work. It does work. It absolutely does. Yeah, I mean, we'll email them. Did not expect that outcome, so I'm not really sure how to handle it. I'm gonna go ahead and just email them right now. Yeah, that's gonna be awkward. Hey,
hey, so we were doing live secure code review. You might want to watch this.
That's so messed up. Oh. Yeah.
Okay, so that okay, all right, that one's fun. I love authentication vulnerabilities, man. They're so much fun when they work.
Yeah.
So that's a register controller. We could, yeah, like I said, we could probably do IDOR there with that GitHub ID. I wonder if the GitHub ID needs to reflect the GitHub username, right? But then, I mean, we could look that up, right? Like, I wonder if we could find that via, because you're looking at my CK Tricky account. Because if I look at I don't know, like what that number that's there, right? That.
And is that Colin going buck wild?
Yeah, he's playing some game. he's probably playing. Like... He's probably playing like FIFA or yeah, I don't know. Let's see, 544.
Oh man, good times. Yeah, I'm literally like emailing a security team or security whoever.
Yep. See, okay, so there it is, right? Like you could basically become anyone and represent yourselves as them by pulling this ID. And so the ID is available at a couple different places, like GitHub user content, avatars, right? All you have to do is look it up in the source code of the profile page of the user you want to become.
Right.
That's it. Yep. Sweet. Well, that was fun.
Can't promise that outcome every time. Now you got to do it every time.
Exactly. If I was to rate this though, right, like that's going to go back and forth. I don't know how high a severity these guys are going to actually view that as.
Yeah.
You know, the guys that are on Laravel.io are probably like all pretty established names. It's just new users as they pop in there. But if I could find someone that already had a ton of posts on GitHub, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's reputational risk. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so that makes me want to dig into those Blade like other places too. They're obviously accepting user input and then doing stuff with it. It's untrusted. There's a whole bunch of templates that are also accessible. God. There's not enough time, Ken. We've been only going 2 hours. We got one good find so far, right?
I know.
I mean, we've got email enumeration too. That's the other thing. I don't know if that's necessarily a big deal though, considering that email is public on GitHub.
But if you know the email, then you can get the user ID.
Yeah.
So you can, yeah. If you know, hey, this is the person's email address. Or if if this person with this email address from GitHub, I should be careful because that works.
So review notes. Okay, so registration allows number of other GitHub users profiles. Check. Contact. Okay, I'll put a check mark here. Contact the dev team. Okay, so that's password hashing mechanisms. So
what else could be interesting in sorry.
Let's see, because we've got enumeration if it matters. Timing attacks. I found some interesting stuff on timing attacks. Forgot password. Did you start looking at those hashes and how they're being generated? We haven't done that.
No.
Password hashing mechanisms. I didn't look into that yet. Brute force attacks. Are we doing any lockouts? Let's see. Here, edit profile.
But one other thing to note is I'm fairly certain they should be checking that state parameter when they do the OAuth callback, but we haven't looked at that OAuth callback yet, have we? I thought you actually. I take that back. I thought you did at one point. Man, doesn't really matter.
Something went wrong. Let me reset that password. Yeah, they're using XV. What is it? X or ZXC VPN? Because I tried to set password 1 as your password, and it wouldn't allow me to do that. So they are given password has appeared in a data leak. Please choose a different password.
Oh, wait, that's interesting. So are they connected to some credential stuffing API?
Yeah. Yep. They have to be. Right. Because I'm seeing that and this is on the settings page. Right. So that's this forgot password. We don't have this in the list, but password strength or password complexity issues.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm also looking at, while you're looking at that, I'm looking at their configs. I'm just starting with the first one because figured we could speed some of that up while you're doing that work there.
Yep, that's fine. Okay, so let me think. I'm going to look. And this is just it. I need to reprioritize now. Like I'm a little out of sorts after finding something. Like where to swing next. I think I'm going to look through. So enumeration doesn't look like it matters. I mean, email enumeration maybe, but that's all public. So I don't even think I would write that up in this case because it is kind of a social app. Usernames are known. Yeah, because it is public profile stuff. Yeah.
I suspect it'll probably just come into play later when we review more of the, like if we, because we could do like next week, we just do like a follow-up to tonight's where we actually dig in more to the code and just kind of follow it through. And in that case, we could definitely just, kind of just follow all that through.
Yep. Cool. All right. So let me see.
So I do suspect that ID is going to be, if we do more of a review, I'm certain that ID issue should come up. Impersonation issue, I should say. Sorry, I'm like talking and reading configs, and it's I've also had. I'm not a drinker, so half a glass of whiskey for me is pretty good.
Is enough.
Yeah, I'm just not a huge drinker.
Okay, so the other thing that I want to look at there, well, that's not really authentication, but now that I know that it accepts all these different values, I want to see how admin and moderator functionality. So this is more of an authorization issue, right? But I want to see how admin moderator access is enabled. So what that's going to go back to is mass assignment, right? Is whether or not it's associated with that user model. And if I can update that from the user controller or the profile controller, or even that registration controller we just played with. It didn't look like it when I looked at the registration controller because there was only certain components that were accepted. But yeah, okay. So that's going to tie back a little bit to what those authorization functions were. And this is why I've got this in the review notes when I get to authorization checks, is I'm going to jump down and be like, okay, we know that there was this middleware that's being used on the authorization or the admin endpoints. Right? So if we pull up one of those, I know you're responding, but you're looking at something else. It's fine, Ken.
No, I'm actually watching you.
Okay.
So I did find, interestingly, though, since you asked, kind of asked. I did find an auth.php config file, which appears to have some like stuff like how long before your password confirmation times out your link, and just different stuff like that related to authorization. Just not much, but a little bit of stuff. So basically it also shows that the web components of this use a session, and that the API components use a token. It defines that here. That's the driver.
Auth user. So that's apps models users. That's what I want to look at.
Sweet. Anyways, I didn't mean to distract, but that was an interesting file, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, no, it definitely is, right? Okay. Ooh. All right. So there's fillable. This is what it allowed me to actually define, right?
Okay.
Hidden or password and remember token. So I shouldn't actually be able to. But you'll notice that there's these constants, the admin default. The table is users behind the scenes. Bio, get username.
Is banned.
Okay, so there's a type. And it's either 1, 2, or 3, right?
Okay.
Yep, it's an integer. Type is the name of it. But I don't know what this actually means for registering users. So I'm going to jump back into the register user process.
Okay.
But it isn't using mass assignment if we look at it here, right? It's actually defining what it's pulling in.
Yeah. So it should just be those parameter names it pulls in, and doing it one by one versus like all together.
Yep. Okay. Well, so that's the registration process, but the other flow we need to look at is the update user flow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Anytime it's a state changing, like registration, update, any creation changes, we always got to look at records. Should we explain that, like that the records in the column, or if they're being updated with like the entirety or the entire contents of a request, it could like potentially map to unexpected columns, and that's what we're basically talking about and looking for.
Yeah. And
so in this case, you could think of taking all this content as like individual columns and saying these are the specific columns we're going to update, versus like take the entirety of the request and then just like map that directly to columns. And if it's a column we didn't expect to be updated, it'll be updated.
Yeah. And this, so the from request again here isn't just shoving it in. It's doing a, string to lower. It doesn't allow so that type parameter isn't being updated here either. Yeah, so it's passing that into this user update. Ooh. Hold on though. So it's getting the email address. It's updating the user using this attribute and then saving that out. So the attributes that are being handled and passed in. So that's the question is, so this is going to limit that. Yeah.
Okay.
Or it should. Yeah.
It says array only.
Yeah.
So it's an allow list. Okay. Yep.
So the type isn't there. So the only other place, so you would expect the administrator to be able to do this, right? So, whoops, let me look at the Explorer here. If I'm looking in the admin controller, that's probably where this is actually allowed. It should be controllers, admin, because there's a users controller in here. But it looks like it just users delete, banned, admin search. So what happens here? Right, there's this index where I can look up users.
Right. Okay, so you do a
What else
search.
can
Okay. So you verify that you're an admin, go down, and then you show a list of users and paginate if
Yeah, but it seems
so
like
if
the
it's
only
okay.
functionality for admin users is the ban user, unban user, or delete the user.
Unban user policy, ban, authorized dispatch, unban user. Okay.
Right.
Yep. Doesn't seem to do much else.
So is there no real way to, create a moderator?
There has to be.
Yeah. Let's see, because where'd that go? It's web. I'm like flipping around so much that I'm the profile controller. The user model. But where would that actually end up, right? Is that some other middleware somewhere?
I have no idea.
There's not a other middleware to do that. Well, let me see again. If we're looking at the user controller, let's look for moderator, right?
Yep.
User is moderator. That's all it is. These are all just controllers. Scope moderators. Like, there's got to be an update here that would allow for this. User policies. Migrate moderators. This is like somewhere else though. Next version, PHP. This looks suspect too. Yeah. Hmm. That's just displaying whether or not they're a user or a moderator. That's it. Login as moderator. That's a test. Hmm. Yeah, I wonder if they have to go into the database itself and flag someone. I mean, it's a secure way to do it for sure, but it does feel pretty difficult, right?
Yeah.
Dang. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm not seeing anywhere that we could actually flip that right now. I don't know how far down that rabbit hole we want to go. Are you starting to drag, Ken?
No, actually, well, I mean, yes, but no, I was looking at I'm quiet because I was just looking at config files. I apologize.
Okay.
I'm trying to bounce between two screens and it's not going well, as you can tell.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I do the same thing, right? It just gets old after a while, right? And this is part of it. When we're doing code reviews, there's this whole idea of you have to be realistic with how much time you can actually spend looking at code before it becomes inefficient, right? How else would you say that, Ken? It becomes inefficient, right?
After a certain period of time, you're kind of spinning your wheels and you're not as focused, and you're just sort of like, this would normally be a time where I think we would, go for a walk, get some coffee, do
Take a little
something
bit
else
of a break.
for a while, for like 30 minutes at least, or whatever, take lunch if you need it, and then come back to it. But and the reason is because as you start to fade, you become less productive. You think just because you're staring at the code doesn't mean you're actually being productive and thinking clearly. And by the way, I was going to mention, so it does seem like, they have a file system, config file. So it has 3 different types of configs. One is for S3, which is obvious. One is for I guess the other 2 are like, one looks to be like the public, the area where like public things get uploaded, probably like public images or assets or something like that. I think.
I imagine so, right? Because the site itself has like profile images and
but we do know they're doing file stuff. So there's a session config file. All kinds of interesting stuff there. But yeah, I mean, we would probably normally just start digging. I mean, if we're doing configuration file review, we're looking at like, it's going to require looking at documentation and a lot of stuff like that. I just thought a quick skim of this gives us like some information, because I'm also interested in any, like, I guess, controllers where you could upload or download files is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and you were talking about that auth controller, or the auth config as well, is interesting.
Oh, email verification. Interesting.
Caching can be interesting. We're not going to get into actual like cache collisions tonight, I'm pretty sure, right? But at the very least, like, I'm seeing access keys and other things for DynamoDB, right? Like that it's pulling it out of the environment. It's not out of other places. Yeah, by default, it looks like it's MySQL. Now that I'm into database.php for the configuration. There's defaults for passwords though in there.
Is there?
Forge. Yep.
Oh, nice.
Which is fine.
Defaults are always
but
interesting. If the environment variables don't make it into production, then you're screwed.
Redis. Yep, default Redis is null, right? Password. Hashing. Bcrypt. Okay, that's great. And I would want to start to note some of this down too if I was going to do a full report. But yeah. Well, Ken, what do you want to do at this point, right? Because I do feel like I'm starting to fade as well. Like, I know we haven't gotten into XSS or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool to just like call it for tonight, and then maybe just continue on the same code base next week. Because I'd like to kind of see something through, a little bit more with folks. And then I think maybe the next episode we think about, the episode after the next episode, we think about doing something we're really familiar with, so we can just kind of like just fly through it, whether it's Django or whether it's Rails or Node or whatever, like something Golang, something we're pretty familiar with. But yeah, I think
so if you're spin into it quick, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd love to continue on this one next week and just sort of see how far we can go, especially with all the information we've collected thus far.
And we didn't even get into my favorite topic of logging and auditing, Ken.
Yeah, I know we haven't gotten there. I think we're going to find some pretty interesting things in this. I mean, now that we've laid the groundwork, it took like an hour, who knows, like an hour and a half or something like that to lay the groundwork. So now that we've already done a lot of the boring, hard stuff, and then you found a vulnerability. Nice job. Very nice.
Woohoo. There was a
Impersonation vuln.
payoff.
Yeah, there was a payoff. So I think now that we're starting to like dig in a bit more, find stuff, well, we should just continue next episode. And there's a question about, are we going live every Wednesday? I don't know if we've decided on a cadence yet.
Yeah. I think with the code reviews, right, this is a little bit more involved than the weekly show that we do on Tuesdays. I don't know. I don't think it'll be every Wednesday, but we'll figure out a cadence, whether it's every couple of weeks or every 3 weeks, just so, just so we can keep at it, right? Like I felt like this was really interesting, and if you guys like this sort of interaction on top of the weekly podcast, then we'll figure out a cadence to make it work, if it's helpful.
It was kind of an experiment, but I'd be down to do next week. Yeah. So no pressure there, Seth. But
I think next Wednesday's not actually going to work for me. So, but we'll post it in Absolute AppSec chat, and then also on Twitter the next time that or the follow up to this, whenever we're going to do that. Okay.
Thanks for folks that stuck with us. I know it's tedious to watch, and appreciate folks watching. That's cool.
Yeah. Appreciate the interaction. Derek, Ben, everybody.
A different method for devs reviewing their own code. Oh,
outside eyes. Good.
Yeah.
How about we may want to take that question onto the podcast next week, but
let's do that.
Short answer is yes.
I'm going to take a screenshot.
Because it's like when you're reviewing your own code, you've got a deeper understanding. So a lot of this initial review that we did was definitely us just stumbling around trying to figure out what was going on. And we're still kind of in that phase, right? We're looking at versions and how Laravel actually implements things. We're looking at documentation. So if you're looking at your own code or a code base from another developer that you're working with in that same code base, you can jump pretty quickly into risks that you are concerned with. And that's where you would start is, okay, we're going to profile this and talk about the risks that we see, and then jump into whether or not that's actually applicable. So I'm going to build out a short list of risks and then a short checklist to support that risks and to look into it. I'm going to short circuit a lot of what we've done. I mean, Ken, we can probably dig in deeper on that question on the next episode, but that's my short answer, unless you got something different.
Nope. That was perfect.
Nope. It means I'm talking too much, which means both of us are.
No, that's not what it means. It means you answered just the way I would have answered, and I'm tired, so there's no need to add to it. That's all it is.
Sweet. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Thanks for sticking with us. And please subscribe to the channel. Find us in all the other places. And if you have a code base you want us to look at, send it our way.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
thanks.
We'll see everybody next week.